What's the title of the new album?
I was going to say it was tentatively called Walk Away, but I guess it's pretty much firm. It's called Walk Away. It is one of the tracks in the song titles, in the album.
Okay, so tell us about this song, Walk Away.
So it was a very unusual song because when I wrote it, it didn't have a pronounced chorus. It wasn't like the usual verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, and then chorus. And I wrote it, and there was a verse, and then there was what I considered the pre-chorus. Okay. Then I returned to the verse, and I had a pre-chorus, and I couldn't write anymore for some reason. So it was a very weighty song. It felt very heavy in a sense because of, I think, the subject matter.
Okay. Yeah. So describe your album as a whole, the general mood.
I think my arranger said it best. I think after a couple of cycles of listening to my music and trying to come up with the arrangement, he said, "Hey Alex, your songs are all unresolved. They all have this hanging thing, at the end of it." So I was like, "Really? I didn't know, So it was very interesting to hear another person's perspective on the matter, because I guess sometimes as a songwriter, you're just so intent on writing the song, you don't really look at it, the whole compilation of 12 songs, you don't really look at it and think of, what is like the common theme, the thread or whatever. But Julian really did isolate that one thing, and he said that, it's all unresolved. I said, I guess so. But then, of course, you go back and then you listen to it again, and it did have that very prominent thread. The album revolved around this idea of not being able to let go, of always hanging on to something that was in the past, and in that sense being trapped when time has moved on and you're still stuck there. Like they say, like a fly in amber, so you got a fly caught in amber, and time has frozen in that sense.
Okay. So would you say that because this is not your first album?
No, obviously not.
So would you say that your albums generally reflect what you are experiencing in that stage of life?
I think so. I think this is quite a common question. I think people always ask me whether did my music reflect my experiences. I think it would be very inaccurate to say that it reflected only my experiences, because I think it reflects more than just what I've encountered in life. I think it's also some of my hopes and my wishes for life in general, and it isn't always just I, me, myself. Sometimes I see something that my friends or other people are experiencing, and then that sort of gets it caught in the creative process. So when you write, it sort of comes out.
Okay. So how would you describe this track, this album, as being different from the previous ones?
This will be my fourth independent release, and I think on all the counts that matter, it would be the defining album. I would think some people always say that, well, the next album is a defining album, and so on and so forth, and it never gets defined. But I think what is interesting about this one was that for me it was a crossing of a personal barrier. For the first 3 albums, I did it almost completely by myself. So I did all the arrangements and all the recording, and I was completely in control of the entire creative process. But somehow, at the start of this year, when I started to think about this album, and it was not even, all the tracks were not fully written, I was still in the songwriting phase, and I was thinking about how to move forward. And it suddenly occurred to me that, well, I don't think I want to arrange the songs anymore. On the one hand, of course, for very practical reasons, I was rather busy, and at the same time, I was kind of tired. And I thought that, well, maybe a fresh perspective on my music would be interesting. People listen to my music, but they need not always listen to the interpretation, which is the arrangement. So I approached my friend Wang, who is a very a prominent theatre musician. Okay, he does a lot of accompaniment for musicals, dramas, so on and so forth. And I really like the way he handled his music. There was a certain class to it which I just gotta have. You know, it was very. And it's very refreshing to see a very young person, I think he's only in his 20s, a very young person with such great mastery over his craft. And when I first approached him, I wasn't entirely sure he would agree to do it. Because, I mean, when I hear some of the arrangements that he's done, I'm thinking like, oh God, this is so far away, you know, pertaining to my kind of music. You know, he's very intricate. He deals with the music very intricately. There are very subtle nuances that can be heard in his music. You know, so when I approached him, I told him that I said, I'm not sure if you are going to be comfortable dealing with my music, or whether it's too simple or is it too cheapo or whatever. No, you know. So I thought, how about this? I send you a couple of samples. You take a listen to it. And you know, you can still bail out if you don't want to do it. And he took a listen to it and said, well, it wasn't too bad. You know, I think it was very honest now. It wasn't too bad. I mean, he said it was great. Thank God. So it wasn't too bad. And then we came to an agreement, and he said yes, he would arrange for my album. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the creative process. What was the time frame spent on, from maybe writing the first song to
writing the first song? God, I gotta go back and look at my notes. Okay, I think I started writing it maybe about late last year, the November-December period. We were doing our Christmas concert, so I was like in between things. So, but I told myself that I didn't want to rush. I just wanted to go back to writing. I haven't had the time to write much, you know. So going back to write was really quite. I treasured those moments when I could actually sit down and write, and I really enjoyed myself then. So it started probably in the November-December period. Then I went on to direct a children's musical called The Adventures of Wang, and this went to stage in March. And it was in March when I met Julian. Right, so that was like our inaugural project. So we were working on that. I was the artistic director and he was the music director. And so there was this whole collaboration that was going on. I didn't see a lot of him. I heard a lot of him. I heard his music, I heard his... And it was just marvelous, you know. So after that, it was during the tail end of Wang Can't Come, so I went to talk to Julian and said, would you consider doing the album with me? And then, as history would have it, he agreed. And then, of course, I continued my songwriting. I told him that, well, the album is not complete in terms of the track listing. I wanted a set of 12 songs. At that point in time, I think I had about 6 or 7. So I had about 6 or 8 more songs to go. So I was writing it as he was arranging it, and it was a very interesting experience, you know. And I'm like the child who has just been promised, you know, this new toy. So it's like, oh, okay. And then every time I see his name pop up in my email box, it's like, oh, you know. And then he's got the sample tracks, and I'll plonk myself somewhere quiet and go and listen to it. And then every time I would be blown away. I think that I didn't expect my music to sound that good, which is no kudos to myself, you know, in a sense. I mean, you write your own music, and then when you arrange your own music, you have there's no expectation because you already know what you're doing in a sense. But then when you have someone else doing it, and then he comes in, and then it gives your music this whole spin. And then you listen to it, and then you wonder, God, I'm good. I mean, he's great, yeah, but I'm not bad either, you know. And then he really, I remember the first song that he sent me was this track called Still in That Day. And oh my God, I tell you, I was stuck on my sofa and I couldn't move because it was so I don't know, it was so emotive. It brought the song out fully. You know, I think that I would not have been able to do that. You know, vocally, yeah, I think I would be able to. But I think his talent is definitely the arrangement, and he brought it out so well, and for the rest of the songs as well. And so after we did like half of the arrangement, so I thought that okay, well, we might as well move in tandem. I would go and record, and that was when I had this other idea that I didn't want to record myself anymore. I didn't want to do the recording on my own. I used to do it on my own. So I thought that this time around, well, I mean, in for penny, in for pound, why don't we do something? I get somebody else to record and maybe give me another perspective that I can consider. So I asked Julia, well, do you have anybody who can do this, you know, mixing and editing and whatever. That was originally the idea. I was going to record myself, then get someone else to edit. But as it went along, I started to think that no, let's just do the whole thing. You know, I'll find the money and we'll do the whole thing. So he introduced his friend James and Melissa, two wonderful musicians who are also very savvy with the audio tech part of things. You know, so I called James. He was very nice. You know, understood my constraints. You know, understood some of my concerns. So we fixed it up, and then we went to record, and it was a blast. I had a lot of fun. I was very sad when we approached the last session. I just loved. It was fun. I mean, it was like 2 hours, 3 hours. I ran in there and I sang, and then you know they would troubleshoot my singing, which is new because in the past it's I, me, myself, the mic and the play button. You know what I mean? So I'll sing, and then say if I say it's good, it's good. If it's not, it's crap. You know. But here, what I thought might be good may not be heard or perceived as such, and they brought in so much of their experience into the whole thing that it just makes it feel a very complete process, a very complete work in that sense. Yeah.
So you've had quite a lot of help on this album.
Yeah, I think so.
So are there any other people you want to acknowledge at this point?
That's a really good question. Okay, of course, my main thanks will go to Julian because I think it was only because he treated my music so well, with so much respect, that I actually felt confident enough to go and ask other people to pitch into the album. Then James and Melissa. There was another recording engineer called Wang who came along. And of course all the other friends who lent their weight into the project, you know, lead in all my students from Exclusive Voices, yourself included, which I'll be turning the tables on you very soon. You know.
If you were to recommend just one song, I mean, as difficult as that sounds,
it's really, I don't know if I can answer that to any accuracy because I think the album is very eclectic. Julian did tell me that he wanted it to sound. There was a definite style that was mine. I think Julian was trying to portray that as that, you know, there's a lot of genres involved. So there were a lot of genres involved in Walk Away. There's a slow and emo. There was the pop. There was the jazz swing. There was the Chinese Oriental. There was this rock, and there's a couple of inspirational songs thrown in there. So I think it would depend on who I'm recommending it for, or to rather. You know, there really is something for everybody in that album.
Something for everyone.
Something for everyone, yeah. And it's interesting because Mel, Melissa, and James. This guy is schizo, you know, he's got some problem. You know, all the songs are so radically different, you know, and then you just got, oh gosh, it's all over the place. And I think that, yeah, you know, if people will say that, if they're kind of say, oh, you've got an eclectic style. Well, if they are going to be a bit honest about it, they say you're extremely confused, and I say that would be quite correct.